Watch out for something. Sorry, it's very slow.
Hello, everybody. And welcome to Columbus. Can you raise your hand if this is your first day at the conference? You just got here? Awesome. Almost half, I'd say. Great. So yeah, welcome to Wikiconference North America. We're super thrilled to have you guys here. I thought it would be really cool to bring it to the Midwest. Last year we were in Montreal as part of Wikimedia, and the year before that we were in San Diego. This is kind of a new experience. I think it's really cool. A huge shout out to the Ohio State University Libraries for hosting us today, as well as tomorrow. We're really excited to be partnering with them, and they've been a huge help for us so far. So if I could have the organizing team please stand up. So we'll all be around with our red shirts if you ever need anything. There's myself, Kevin Farabi, we have Richard Nightfall, Kelly Doyle, Andrew Lee, Rosie, Maria, and Emery. They've all been working very hard to put this together for you, and we hope you have a great time. And of course, thank you to all of our great volunteers. You've seen them running the registration desk, you'll see them helping usher people around, room minding. You'll see them with their little orange volunteer ribbons. So a huge shout out to them. Without them, this conference wouldn't be happening. So why Columbus? Why did we drag you all to Ohio on this lovely day? Columbus is, I like to call it an up-and-coming city. It's pretty exciting. It has a huge library scene. There's the Ohio State University Libraries, which serves the Ohio State University, the third largest university in the U.S., I believe, last I checked. IFLA was here a couple years ago. That's the International Federation of Librarians, something like that. Several thousand librarians from all around the world descended on this city, and they had a great time. Ohio State librarians offered to host. Yesterday we were with the Columbus Metropolitan Library, who was hosting us as well. It's just a really cool space for academics and librarians and everyone interested in this whole movement. Maybe that would be a great opportunity to have it at a new central location in the United States. Our theme this year is possibility. Spanish, posibilidad. French, possibilité. I'm not good at French. So during this weekend, we'd like you to kind of just keep in mind possibility. What can you take away from this conference as an opportunity of sorts for the future? What do you recognize as a possibility for you to further your involvement into Wikimedia movement? I know we have some people who are brand new to the Wikimedia movement here. We hope this conference is an opportunity for you to get a great first engagement with our movement and see all the possibilities there are. Throughout this weekend, we'd like to remind you of our friendly space policy. We do have a flyer outside in the lobby, which has this full safe space policy listed there. Your attendance here signifies your agreement to this policy. It's all about respecting each other, recognizing boundaries, things like that. Anyone with a red lanyard on, that would be a person who does not want their photo taken, so please respect their privacy regarding that. Green lanyards are fine, and these purple lanyards are for organizers. And then if you need assistance, anyone in a red t-shirt will be able to help. If you have a problem, a safety issue, an emergency, anything at all, please reach out to one of us. And throughout the conference, the wiki is your friend, as always. Wikiconference.org is our website, and that's the link to the full schedule. There you'll find the presentations, locations, who's speaking, all those details. On the schedule, every presentation slot is 30 minutes, unless otherwise specified. And thank you to all of our great partners. We have the Wikimedia Foundation, who is our grantor. We have the Ohio State University Libraries, which is where you're sitting right now. The Columbus Metropolitan Library, the Wiki Education Foundation, for helping us get academics here. OCLC for being a huge supporter of us in our movement. Wikimedia District of Columbia and Ohio Comedians, who helped put on this event. And Root Insurance Company and Thurber House for also lending their support for our event. So big round of applause for them. And then we have our first speaker, Marilee Prophet. She's the senior manager at OCLC. She's been involved with the Wikimedia movement for quite a while. She's been a huge support for us, and a huge fan of the movement, and we'd like to invite you up to speak. Thank you.
And I look so happy in that picture because I'm at Wikicon North America. Thank you guys all so much for being here, and I want to say a couple of words about possibility. So over 50 years ago, right here at Ohio State, OCLC was born. In September 1967, there's a plaque actually in the Thompson Library. I took a picture of it. I'm going to upload it to Commons a little later. But OCLC was actually born here on this campus, and it was a vision of possibilities by a group of Ohio libraries. The O in OCLC originally stood for Ohio, and then expanded across the country and then later across the world. But it was a vision that librarians would come together and collaboratively share their cataloging efforts. And that's really a lot like what Wikipedia and the Wikimedia movement aims to do, is to collaboratively come together and make the world better. So the first Wikimedia that I attended was in 2012, and I got to see a preview of Wikidata before the project officially launched. And in June 2013, you can go on YouTube, and Max Klein, our first Wikipedian in residence, and I did an explainer about Wikidata for librarians. And I went back and I watched that later, and at the end of the video, we say, what are the implications for Wikidata for library authority control? And it's really interesting because I think that this community has been really grappling with that, and you'll see presentations by my colleagues tomorrow talking about how Wikidata and Wikibase is really influencing library workflows tomorrow. Today, Monica Shangle-Jones and I will talk about the project that we did last year to bring public libraries in the United States into Wikipedia to help pull back the curtain and help them see their engagement in Wikipedia to be able to see themselves in that. So OCLC is so happy to be sponsoring this conference. We're so happy that it's in Ohio, and I really hope it's not the last time, and it's definitely not the last time that OCLC is going to be contributing to this movement. So thank you all, and enjoy the rest of your conference.
And now on to our keynotes. We're doing something different with keynotes this year. We're calling them mini keynotes, but these are not mini speakers. These are the rock stars within our movement. And when I say movement, our broader movement. So bear with us. These are only 15 minutes. There is no question and answer period afterwards, but we think you're going to enjoy what you're going to hear. We're going to start with a real rock star, Mckensie Mack, Director of Art and Feminism, who's here to share some enlightening thoughts about the program that they manage, as well as movement in general. Mckensie, Mack, please.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me. I'm going to start my time, so make sure I don't go over. So the name of this talk is The State of Art Plus Feminism, and I'll get into what art plus feminism is. I won't go into talking about some statistics and numbers because I have to, because of the neoliberal desire to quantify everything. So I won't get into some numbers, but then I'll get into talking to you about why those numbers are meaningful. So this is who I am. My name is Mckensie Mack. I'm the director of Art plus Feminism. I'm a researcher, visual artist, and anti-oppression consultant. And because for me, whenever I'm doing a talk, I like to keep in mind that people are different, right? So just because you're like looking at me, like staring at me directly doesn't mean that you're fully engaged. And just because you're tweeting at me while I'm talking doesn't mean that you're not fully engaged. So feel free to tweet at me during the presentation at Mckensie Mack, and you can use the hashtag WCNA, which stands for Wikiconference North America. I'm so happy to be here, and one of the reasons I'm so happy to be here is because Columbus, I hear, is known for the biggest Popeyes in the state. 3 levels. I have not been there yet, but I will go, and I will visit every level. So thank you for that. This is not the actual Popeyes. I just took a random photo of Popeyes off the comments, so just so you know. And then there's already a friendly space and race-based policy for this conference, as Kevin has already outlined or let you all know about. But I also like to just kind of define my own race-based agreement, which means that for the next 15 minutes, really 13 minutes that I have left that I'll be talking, this is what we're all binding ourselves to. What is that race-based agreement? Well, it's that we agree to struggle against systems of oppression, and we agree to combat the ways in which we believe stereotypes and misinformation about our own identities and the identities of other people. It means that we know that no space can be completely safe, but still we agree to work together towards harm reduction, centering those most affected by injustice in the room, even if it means centering ourselves. We agree to sit with the discomfort that comes with having conversations about race, about gender, right, about art, about feminism, about information activism on Wikipedia, and we agree to try our best not to shame ourselves for the vulnerability that these kinds of conversations require. And then this one is, all of these are my favorites, but this one is especially my favorite, in that we agree to value the viewpoints of other people that do not challenge or conflict with our right to exist. Why that one? Well, specifically because I know there's been plenty of times where I've gone to a workshop and the agreement has been that we respect all opinions. But what if that opinion disrespects my existence? Or what if that opinion is founded in the idea that I don't deserve to exist as fully and wholly as I do across the spectrum of all of my identities, right? Then is that really an opinion? So for the next 13 minutes, we don't value those opinions that challenge or completely conflict with our right to exist. Why art? Why feminism? Well, Art Plus Feminism is a global campaign to improve coverage of cis and trans women, art, the arts, and feminism on Wikipedia. It's been in existence for about 5 years. Because art is a means to critique our society, but not only to critique it, but to study it, right? And then to take that study, that critique, and to show it to other people so that they can then have their own interpretation, right? Feminism is a way in which we deconstruct systems of oppression. And especially when the feminism is intersectional, that's when we're really deconstructing systems of oppression that don't just have to do with gender, but go across the lines of class, of race, et cetera, et cetera. That's why we chose art and feminism. In 2011, the Wikimedia Foundation found that less than 10% of Wikipedia's editors identified as cis or trans women. Newer reports have found that number to be estimated at 16% globally. And then we also know that editors that do identify as women are more likely than those that have their edits reverted, right? So that would depend on your actual username on Wikipedia. Where's the data on race and ethnicity? Well, there really isn't any. Yeah. Also a problem, but again, I only have 10 minutes left, so we're not going to dive into that right now. But if you like to talk about it after, you can come to me, we can have a discussion about it. What do we do about this? Well, at Art Plus Feminism, and not just at Art Plus Feminism, but at a number of other user groups, community groups around the world, we're editing. So at Art Plus Feminism specifically in 2014, February 1st, 2014 is the day that we had our first edit-a-thon. And at that editathon, which 600 participants at 31 events across 6 countries came together to create 100 articles and to approve 90. Yeah. Now in 2018, 5 years later, over 4,000 people have convened across 300 events and created or improved over 22,000 articles. And that's this year alone. These are all the people, and this is not an exhaustive list, who make this happen. So we're a team of regional ambassadors, including Melissa Tamani, Latin America, Mohammed Abdoulaye Sadat in West Africa, Addie in Eastern Europe. We have Richard, who I see sitting here right in front. Hey, Richard. Afro Crowd, Black Lunch Table, Women in Red, the Wikimedia Foundation, who funds our work, and then hundreds of organizers and gender gap-friendly Wikipedians, thousands of editors, and including Sage Ross, who has helped us with the dashboard, which is how we actually are able to track what's happening. Oh, okay. Damn, because I was going to do a shout out to Sage, but that's okay. Just tell me that there was this gift in this thing, and, let me know that happens. It's not just a numbers game. Because we know that the game is rigged, right? Which is something, the game is rigged because of academia, because of the ways in which we value information. So that happened long before Wikipedia was even established. But whose work is the work to fix the system, right? Or to at least work to dismantle the systems of oppression? Whose work is that work? It's a question that people ask me often. And the answer is that it's your work. It's my work, right? It's our work. It's work that we do together. Wikipedia, like all other organizations and open source communities established in its time, was built on a legacy of systemic bias. In a world which privileges the voices of cishet white people, especially men over other marginalized groups. So there's no way we can get away from that. There are no exceptions. But we're here because we believe that dismantling systems of inequity requires us to first understand how they work. We know as much as we do about marginalized communities, period, and as much as we know about marginalized communities on Wikipedia because of marginalized people, because of allies, right? Because of cis and trans women, because of non-binary people who have advocated, right? Who have told us what their experiences are. They were the ones who established community. And we know that that takes a lot of courage to establish community. They honored the experiences of marginalized people, they honored their own experiences, and they gave voice to systemic exclusion of cis and trans women and femmes. So this work started long before us. This work started long before art plus feminism, and we thank all of those people who've come before us and those people who work alongside us in this work. Right? We thank the user, Kehlana. I don't know if she's here today, no? Damn, she's never at the conferences when I wasn't either. Community partnerships with Black Lunch Table. I don't know if Heather Hart is here. Afro Crowd. Wiki Loves Pride. I love this photo. Les Sampage. No, Wikipedia is not the cause of racism, sexism, homophobia, transphobia, etc. Yes, we do have a responsibility, not only to see cis and trans women, people of color, queer folks seen, but also to see them heard and their perspective valued, right? Because what's the point of being seen if you're not going to be valued? What's the point of being seen if you're not really going to be heard? I see people taking photos, so I'm just going to take a little photo break.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Consider this analogy, right? This is going along these lines of like, hey, I didn't create this thing, so why are you talking to me about it, right? I didn't create this oppression, so why are you talking to me about it? This is a stick. Now, if you look very closely, it's actually a cinnamon stick, but let's just pretend like it's an actual stick you just find in the yard. It's long. So, right, when I was a kid, I remember once I went into the backyard, and I have 6 brothers, so you can imagine the level of irritation. And one of them was getting on my nerves, so I took a stick. We were in the backyard, he said something I didn't like, and I hit him with the stick. So my mom comes outside, and she's like, your brother said you hit him with a stick, why'd you do that? And I was like, but Mom, why are you mad at me? She's like, because that's wrong, you shouldn't be hitting him with a stick. And I'm like, but I didn't create the stick. Right? So when we think about systemic oppression, we didn't create it, but that doesn't mean we have to hit people over the heads with it either. Right? So remember, this is a cinnamon stick. I know it's a cinnamon stick, but I just wanted to keep it spicy, so. The moment that we see systemic bias and inequity in its reflection, right, when we're thinking about Wikipedia as a reflection of society, is the moment that we become responsible for doing something about it. Doing nothing means that we allow our power to be used to perpetuate its harm and its exclusion of marginalized people and voices from its pages. And our quickly changing society calls us to do that work. It calls us to lean into that activism, which I find that often when we're talking about editing on Wikipedia, a lot of folks don't consider that to be activism or are doing it and don't really think about it as activism, but it definitely is, right? 20 years ago, how many voices right in this room could write an article, period? Not even just an article on Wikipedia, just write an article, right? Because Wikipedia isn't 20 years old yet, but we're getting there. We could just write an article and as a person, as an expert in their field, and have that article published. Depending on what your name is, what you look like, where you were born, 20 years ago, that would have been completely impossible just to even consider that. So, in considering it or viewing it as what it actually is, information activism, we're working to see the sum of all human knowledge preserved and archived. And in this recent story about Donna Strickland, which, being very clear, her name is Donna Strickland because a lot of articles, right, the titles were like, hey, there's this woman that did this thing. And it's like, what is her name? Can we put her name in like the title, like just so we know who that is? But even with this article going viral, this story going viral about Donna Strickland and the fact that she did not have a Wikipedia page that was actually published and accepted about her until after winning a Nobel Peace Prize, we have to ask ourselves, if Donna Strickland was not a cis-presenting, white-presenting, woman-presenting person, right, will we be hearing about this story? And if it takes a cis-presenting, white-presenting, woman-presenting person to win a Nobel Peace Prize to have an article written about them, what would it take a black trans woman, right, to be written about, to have an article published about them? And if that article wasn't written, what would it take for that article about that missing information to go viral? Yeah. Joy Bolomwini does a lot of work at is the founder of the Algorithmic Justice League, and does work on a concept called the coded gaze, which tells us that code, right? That when we're coding something, we're coding our personality, our perspective, our experiences into the code. So in a number of instances, what is being coded into, right, our software, our programs, is the perspective of cishet white men. And so I use this example specifically because it's important to note that this is a systemic issue, right? It's not just like a Wikipedia issue, but it's a globalized issue. Another example is in the New York Times, where this article published by Amanda Hess focused on obituaries in the New York Times and the grave gender imbalance. And in that work, it talked about a poet, Lynn Melnick, who was focusing on the obituaries of women, right? And she found that just 7 of recently deceased people who merited a post-mortem were women. At this time, the ratio of obituaries about men and women, just 10% of the obituaries about women, right? And so we're not even considering the deaths of gender nonconforming or gender non-binary people as having been excluded. So we know we still have work to do. So with the New York Times, what happened is recently this year, they established a series called Overlooked, where they went back and were writing obituaries about women who had not had obituaries written about them, or in some cases rewriting them because the obituaries focused on the fact that they made a mean beef stroganoff. But didn't focus on the fact, right, that they're like scientists and right, accomplished people. So even with this article that was published in the New York Times, and talking about Overlooked, the writer writes, conscious or unconscious bias could be, right? It's just like, that's a cat in the cuckoo clock moment. What? Definitely biased. So we're getting there. We see other folks doing this work and working to dismantle systemic bias, right? And looking also to go backwards, not to go backwards in time to try to fix it, but to go backwards in time to attempt to learn from the past mistakes that we've made. Knowledge is not a renewable resource. Preservation of information has a shelf life. What does that mean? That means that every person in this room, right, carries a very specific set of knowledge, carries a very specific history, that if not preserved, will expire. So when we think about that in terms of marginalized community, and we're understanding that, that means that we have limited time to preserve history. Once that history, those people who've actually experienced the history are gone, what we're getting is an interpretation of what happened, right? And that is my presentation. I'm Feminism on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, and thank you for your time. Oh, see you.
Oh, perfect. Wow. Amazing synchronicity. Great. Thanks so much, Mckensie. For our next speaker, I want to introduce Mark Graham of the Internet Archive. How many people here have ever used the Wayback Machine on the Internet? Of course you have, right? So we really love having our like-minded, aligned partners in the same room with us, at our conferences with us, and the more, the better. And Mark was at Wikimania last year talking to a small room, but we thought we really want to hear about what they've been up to this past year. So Mark, if you come up and tell us more about what's going on with the Internet Archive, you're so far.
Thank you very much, Andrew. Yeah, this is my third Wikipedia North America conference, and I'm already looking forward to the fourth one. So thanks for asking me back here today. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a quick overview of what we do at the Internet Archive. I'm going to explain why that may be important. I'm going to give a quick update on what we've accomplished together, and then a vision of what we might do going forward and a bit of a challenge. Okay? So this is the building. It's our headquarters for the Internet Archive in San Francisco. How many people have come and visited us? All right, so there's a lot more of you that I invite to come. The building looks like our logo. Our logo is a bunch of Greek columns, and that's why we bought the building. It's a former Church of Christian Scientists. Now it's a temple for knowledge and information. And that is our mission statement, universal access to all knowledge. This is what the front page of the Internet Archive looks like. As you can see, we could use a designer. And I'm going to highlight a couple of the media types that we work in as a library. We actually operate as both an archive and a library. I'm going to emphasize the library aspect of our work today. This is the front page of the Wayback Machine. On the bottom right-hand side, it says Save Page Now. Just want to highlight that is used about between 20 and 100 million times a week for people to enter URLs. We archive about 1.5 billion URLs a week. We have 340 billion web pages and almost 700 billion URLs archived. So that means we're archiving 2,000 or 3,000 things every second in the Wayback Machine. But the Internet Archive is more than just web archives. In the Wayback Machine, we actually work in a number of different media types. Software titles, that number is actually pretty small. We've added a lot more to that since. We archive software from old operating systems, and we emulate those operating systems in browsers. Moving images. Want to focus on books in this presentation, audio recordings, television. We already talked about web pages, and overall, it's a lot of storage. I'll share about that in a second. But before that, this just came out yesterday. Any of you see this? Gizmodo called out this. They were referencing the 100 websites that shaped the internet as we know it. Right? These are the most important websites, or the best, but just shaped the internet as we. So we came out as number 5. That's pretty cool. Right? And you would think that's just a shameless plug, and I'm being arrogant, but actually, it's really an introduction to this slide. So congratulations, Wikipedia beat out Google. Google is number 2. Yeah, and I see MySpace beat out Facebook. So you kind of get some of the sensitivity to their how they rated things. But that's just huge. This came out yesterday. Gizmodo. Okay, so a little bit about how we archive audio, sound archives. That's where things start out. That's actually a picture for the Boston Public Library. The Boston Public Library realized that they were storing a whole lot of audio media, and it wasn't really a benefit to anyone, so they gave it to us. And more than 200,000 objects overall, 78s and vinyl. This is what a lot of it looks like. So I know I love this photo. It's like, holy cow. And each of those boxes is filled with vinyl or a 78. and they get shipped out to us. And then what we do is we archive, we digitize them, and it involves a process of using some machinery. I'm showing here, the bottom line is we end up with lots of files, audio files and image files and a lot of metadata, etc. We've actually archived now 94,078s, and we've got a lot more to go. But because of this, you can now, from the comfort of your home, say, hey Google, ask the Internet Archive to randomly play Jazz 78s. And you can listen to jazz music forever. Or you can also go, hey Google, ask the Internet Archive to randomly play The Grateful Dead. Okay. Another bit of media that you may not be aware that we archive a lot of is television. We've been archiving television news from 60 channels 24/7 for 9 years. So we have about 2 million hours of television with closed caption, which means it's indexed and searchable. And we also even do optical character recognition on the lower third chyron, those words that go by on the bottom of the screen, so you can search that way as well. So this is a view into the interface. I'm searching for Snowden. I get individual articles there. And this service is used fairly extensively by third-party fact-checking organizations. We've also got tools that are used by journalists to produce graphics, because what we're doing is we're transforming a linear video media into data. And once you've done that, you can do analysis. You can say, do a comparison of how often this word was used in Fox versus MSNBC, for example, in a given period of time. So I mentioned earlier that we get a lot of physical stuff, and this is where we store it after we finish. We don't throw anything away. We don't destroy the books that we digitize. One of our principal units of measurement at the Internet Archive is a shipping container. And the information ends up being stored in hard drives, lots and lots of hard drives. We use 8 terabyte hard drives. We buy thousands of them a year. And we store everything in our church, and also in a physical archive that's also in another part of the San Francisco Bay Area. And you're looking at about 7.5 petabyte right there. And we got lots and lots and lots of those. So here's something that happened recently. I got this phone call a few weeks ago from an executive at Google saying, did you see what Donald Trump just tweeted? And this is what he tweeted. Went to his 53 million followers. It was actually pinned to his feed, so it got extra special attention. And it's a video. He tweeted a video claiming that Google had not promoted the State of the Union address for him as they had for Barack Obama in the past. And Google wanted to know if maybe we could help. Maybe we had an archive of the front page of Google. So we did. Actually, on January 30th, 2018, we had 830 archives of the front page of Google. And many of them, in fact, had an image right there with that circle is showing that Google had promoted the State of the Union address. And so as a result of that, there were a whole lot of articles that came out later that day and that night where the story changed a little bit. And this was my favorite headline, right there. So this is an example of how the Internet Archive was working to help set the record straight, fairly consistent with Wikipedia's philosophy about verifiability. This seems kind of random, but I just wanted to show another example of once you have a web archive, what you can do. What you can do is you can do a side-by-side comparison of one given URL and show how the content had changed. So this is a brand new feature of the Wayback Machine. If any of you come to me and ask for an account on our beta site, I'll give it to you and you can help us evolve this tool. But this is an example where the EPA has put the phrase climate change on the list of words you're not supposed to use. Now, so you use the word weather and things like that. So once again, this is one URL, the content has changed over time, and this tool is now available that people can use this on any of the billions of URLs that we have. Here's another recent example. Brett Kavanaugh, his drinking buddy, wrote a book called Wasted. I don't know about you, I really wanted to read this book, like about 3 and 4 weeks ago. And it was frustrating me because I couldn't couldn't find it in the local library. I tried to buy it on eBay, it was $2,000. Anyway, this book is available now on the Internet Archive. However, it's available via something we call controlled digital lending. I'll get into that in a second. And you can see there are 397 people waiting to read this book. 23 had borrowed. If we had more physical copies of the book than one, we could allow more people to borrow it simultaneously. This is a pretty good article written about the whole case by Slate. And if you wanted to read more about the issue of controlled digital lending, we think Slate did a pretty good overview of it. What is controlled digital lending? It's an idea. It's a white paper, a 42-page white paper that was published 2 weeks ago that dozens and dozens of libraries, Boston Public Library, LA Public Library, San Francisco Public Library, Georgetown Law, and others have signed on to, including the Internet Archive. And it makes the radical proposition that if a library has a physical copy of a book, a dead tree copy of a book, they should be able to make a digital version of that and lend out one digital copy at a time to one person with digital rights management, preserving the rights of the copyright holder and extending the right of first sale right of the library because they own a physical copy of the book. So this is an idea that we think whose time has come, and one that we'll be continuing to promote over the coming months and years. And here's another recent announcement we made. We now are making 1.8 million of our digital books available completely free, without restrictions, for people who are vision impaired. So, oh gosh, okay, so what have we done with Wikipedia? I'm super pleased to announce today that because of the awesome work of Cyberpower, who's right there in the middle, Cyberpower, and also another Wikipedian named Stephen Ballback, over the last couple of years, we have discovered and with the help of a lot of other Wikipedians corrected 9 million broken links. On 22, 26 Wikipedia sites. So about 6 million of these were corrected with IA-bot. Actually, 7.5 million were corrected with IA-bot, about 6 million pointing to the Wayback Machine, about 3 million pointing to other web archives. And this bot is now running on 22 language Wikipedia editions, and we're working to roll this out on many, many more of them. Okay, and why is that important? Well, one of the reasons it's important is that this is a recent graph showing links from Wikipedia to the Wayback Machine. And we can see that big bar there down at the bottom shows that there was 3 times as many connections from Wikipedia to the Wayback Machine as the next most popular external site, which is books.google. All right, but what can we do going forward? Well, a couple things. One, we're going to continue our work to help identify broken links on every one of the 288 plus Wikipedia sites that we can get IA-bot running on. We're going to continue to work to make IA-bot faster and have less errors. We're going to work to extend the functionality of IA-bot to add links to other kinds of things. But what I would like to do is I would like to connect references to books, to academic papers, to music, to software, and other media types to our library. So here's an example. I'm using a Chrome extension to demonstrate this. This is the Wikipedia article about Oleg Penkovsky. And this is the references section. Please excuse the gaudiness of the large icons. But this illustrates that there are 10 books that are cited in this Wikipedia article. 6 of them we have available at the Internet Archive, and you can read them by just clicking on the Internet Archive icon there. So there are 4 books that are not yet available. I'd like to fill in all the blanks and make it such that every book referenced on every Wikipedia article is a click or a rollover away. All right? So that's the challenge. That's the challenge. And I clicked and I went right to that book. I'm in the book reader at the Internet Archive. There are 3 cases here. So in terms of in terms of the books, in terms of reading the books. Case one is that the book is in the public domain. Anyone can read any part of it. Case two is that the book is rights encumbered, and you can read a snippet of the book, the same way in Google Books under fair use. And the third case is the book is rights encumbered, and you can borrow the book under controlled digital lending. You can borrow the whole book for a period of time with DRM. So those are the three opportunities that we're proposing that you could read parts of this book, parts of all of the book through. What about academic papers? So here's my favorite Wikipedia page, actually, Easter Island. And I'm going to use this is the Chrome extension, which will be available in the Chrome store in a few weeks. If any of you want early access to it, I will give it to you. I'd love your feedback. And I clicked on I clicked Find Cited Papers, and there I have an interface into cited papers, and I clicked on the first read paper, and there I'm reading that paper now from the Wayback Machine. Why are we doing this? Because if I give you a URL on the live web, I can't guarantee that A, it's going to be there, or B, you're going to get the content that you think you're asking for. So in this case, cited papers are all going to go through the Wayback Machine. Here's an example of cited books for the Wikipedia page. It turns out I think there are 17 books cited on this page. We have, I think, 8 of them available at the Internet Archive. I happen to have a pretty extensive collection of books about Easter Island, so I'm donating all of my books on many subjects, but including Easter Island, to the Internet Archive, so they can be scanned and made available. Oh, back to that Oleg Penkovsky page. There were 10 books cited. 6 of them are available today. 4 of them were delivered to my home this week. They'll be scanned next week. So next week, every book cited on that article, people will be able to read by just pressing on a link. So the challenge, what I want to throw out to all of you, and there's 2 parts to this. The first part is just to say, let's do it, right? I'd like to make it such that this is true, that books and academic papers and other kind of media type are a click or rollover away. But the second is to say, how might we do this? Might we gamify this in some fashion? Might we do something like just start with the top 10 or 100 or 1,000? I'm sure that, I know that I'm passionate about a few articles, and I'm sure that in this room, there's probably hundreds of articles that people are passionate about that you have books for that you could help us fill in the blanks. So I'd love some feedback, ideas, criticism, suggestions about how we can move this challenge forward. And basically, my interest is to turn all of the links blue. Woo. Including the 78s, because it's a pretty unique collection of media type that is just a click away. And also, I invite all of you to please come visit us next time you're in San Francisco. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mark. And now, for your viewing pleasure, we have our last keynoter, Nicole Ebber. Nicole Ebber is in Berlin, Germany, and unfortunately was not able to make it across the pond to come over to us. So we're very glad that she's agreed to present her mini keynote, 15 minutes or less, via Google Hangout. Nicole Ebber is very important in our movement as she is in charge of the movement strategy process. Nicole Ebber, everyone, round of applause.
Great. It's all yours.
It's all yours.
Okay, all right. Hi, thank you for inviting me to provide this keynote, and I would actually have loved to be able to join in person, but I could not get on a plane due to a slight health issue. So here we go. I'm Nicole Ebber. I work for Wikimedia Deutschland since 2010, and since early 2018, I am leading the Wikimedia 2030 project, which is run by the Wikimedia Foundation. And I will now start sharing my screen so that you can see my presentation. So I hope it's working. Can you, okay, I will just start. So, Wikimedia 2030 stands for a very long and huge process. And I would like to start with describing how we actually got here, how we got where we are today, and then also describe where this all is going. Wikipedia turned 15 in 2016, and then we began wondering about the future. The world around us is constantly changing. This is nothing new, but it has an influence on our own future, of course, and it made us wonder what will Wikimedia look like in 2030, and how do we actually want to evolve? What do we want to be known for in 2030? How will our project and our community evolve? And also, what is beyond the encyclopedia, and who will join us on our quest for free knowledge? We boiled all these smaller questions down to one question. What do we want to build or achieve together over the next 15 years? And the Wikimedia Foundation initiated a process to find an answer to that in 2017, so last year. Our aim there was to identify a common strategic direction that would unite us and inspire people across the whole movement, and it would also help us make decisions about our future. And because what brings us together as a movement, and probably also what brings you all together there, is not what we do, or not only what we do, it's also why we do it. And we kind of did it the Wiki way, and although we hired a consultant last year, they did not just come in and write the answer for us. That would have been a little bit too easy. But they helped us design a community-driven process that was inclusive and that gave people many different opportunities to share their perspectives and also to join the discussion. We asked Wikimedians about their hopes and their fears. We held different offline events and online consultations to explore how every one of you and your fellow community members are imagining our future. And that generated around, 2,000 wiki pages throughout the year, and many of them have also been translated to different, I think up to 20 languages. But we also looked beyond our own communities and asked experts from different fields, from the arts, education, from the cultural sector, technologists, futurists, and also policy experts, what their hopes and dreams are, and also, of course, what the challenges are that they anticipate for our future. And then we took thousands of comments and hundreds of conversations, and all these endless reports and wiki pages and research results and so on. And from it all, we built a strategic direction. And by the way, by we, I mean a team that was built last year together with a team that was built from movement, from community members. So it's also, again, not one person or a consultant, but a team, a group from within the movement. And this is the result of all these conversations. This is a strategic direction which has been created and published about a year ago. By 2030, Wikimedia will become the essential infrastructure in the ecosystem of free knowledge. And anyone who shares our vision will be able to join us. And I'm going a little bit more into details here because first of all, I really like it. And this cannot be the main reason for it, but second, we haven't shared it broadly enough with the communities, is what we've heard as feedback over the last couple of weeks and months. So again, thank you for having me here today to present it. When we look at Wikimedia, what does it mean? That's basically all of us. That's all of you in the room, that's the contributors, but also the organizations like the chapters, user groups, and the foundations, and of course all the projects. Then we have the essential infrastructure. That sounds a little bit vague also, a little bit abstract, but what can be read into it is that these are tools and platforms that enable us and also others to collect and use different forms of free and especially trusted knowledge. And then we have the ecosystem of free knowledge. This is basically Wikimedia and all our partners. So everyone, all organizations and institutions who contribute to a global free and open internet. Our vision, I'm sure many of you will know it, a world in which every single human being can freely share some of our knowledge. And to enable people to join us, we need accessible platforms, we need to create spaces that are free from harassment, and we need content and projects available in many different languages. And yes, to join us, that means that people will not only be able to read the things that are available on our project, but of course we also want them really to contribute their knowledge to our project. And the direction goes even further. It also describes two priorities. One of the priorities is knowledge equity. That means that we will focus our efforts on the knowledge and the communities that have been left out before because of structures of power and privilege. And we will welcome people from every background to build strong and diverse communities. And this is also the first time that Wikimedia basically openly recognizes that it is a social movement, and a movement that is ready to stand up for their cause. The second priority is knowledge as a service, and that means that we will build tools for our allies and partners to organize and exchange free knowledge also beyond Wikimedia. And that we want to make sure that our infrastructure will enable us, so Wikimedia, our communities, and others to collect and use different forms of free and trusted knowledge. And you might say that, but we are already doing this in a way. Yes, we are, but acknowledging this will help us identify where we can do even more and where we want to set priorities, for example. The strategic direction, basically, it really received broad support as a place to start, but the overall question now is how do we actually get there? How do we set our structures up for success? How do we move in our new direction? And now we are moving into, or we are entering a new part or a new season of this huge Wikimedia 2030 process. And I think if you look at the strategic direction, for me, it's very high level and it's broad, and some people also call it is vague and they don't know what it means. And the thing is that it will really mean different things to each and every single one of you also in the audience and in the movement. And it will mean different things to Wikimedians in other parts of the world. It will mean also different things depending on your background, depending on whether you are a Wikipedian, you contribute to Wikidata or Commons, or whether you belong to one of the partner organizations from the GLAM or education sector, or whether you are our partner in crime in the fight for a free and open internet. And this is what we want. We want this. This is intentional, and we think it's actually good. Because local context really matters in this, not only in this case, but it matters here because we need all the pieces of the puzzle from all parts of the world and also from different backgrounds to bring this strategic direction to life. And this is what we are doing now, what we have started doing or are doing now, that we will update or we will start updating our structures and programs so that we can successfully advance in our strategic direction. And this is happening in two parallel processes, one on the programmatic level and one on the structural level. The program planning is actually not really what I will be talking or what I'm talking about here today, but I wanted to make sure that the distinction is well understood. Taking the strategic direction and integrating it into strategic plans or annual plans and day-to-day activities. This is what's happening here. This is also the output that is generated. This is what the affiliates and the foundation are already doing. And it, of course, includes working with communities in local thematic and project contexts, and includes, for example, of course, also supporting the technical feature requests that are coming from the community. And then we have the structural level, the structural change. This is what I'm talking about today, and this is driven by movement-led working groups on 9 different areas that I will show in a second. And it builds upon diverse participation from across movements. It's basically a coordinated exploration process to prepare us for the future. And what we hope is that the outcome of this process is our recommendations for structural change to better support programmatic work in the future. And just to be super clear here, this is not about policies on English Wikipedia, for example, on notability or on reliable sources. This is a completely different process. And who is actually working on this structural change? I wanted to present the two, the core team and the working groups. The core team, this is the team that I lead. It was set up to help develop a process so that the movement can really respond to the question of how we can get to 2030. And we are setting this process up using our principles, different principles. First of all, this process is owned by the movement. It's not owned by the core team, it's not owned by the foundation, it is owned by the whole movement. We are all in this together because it will all influence us together. And it is a participatory process, so we bring in different voices from the movement and beyond in different stages of the process, and it's a transformation process. So it will really transform the movement so that we can successfully move towards 2030. And we will, of course, integrate the lessons that we have learned from last year in this process. And here's the team. Hello also from the team. We report to Catherine Maher, which is the Executive Director of the Wikimedia Foundation and the Board of Trustees. Yes, we report to them, but as I said, the process is owned by the movement. And I am not going into detail to describe all our different roles. I just wanted to point out that my colleague Jodie, who is our project manager, she's here today. Maybe she can even wave, I don't know how the situation is. And she will give a workshop later today at 3:55 about the movement, this process. And then we have the working groups, who are actually those who build the recommendations. We have designed this model, where 9 working groups will develop recommendations on how the movement should adapt and evolve in 9 different thematic areas. The initial members of these working groups were selected in June and started working in July, and some of them even met at Wikimedia. Sorry, I need to drink a sip of water, 1 second. Sorry. So, in the second half of 2030, they will have developed answers to guiding questions around the following areas, so that afterwards the implementation can then start. And these are the 9 thematic areas, and I'm getting a signal that I need to wrap it up, so I'm not going through all of them. I will just click through them very quickly. And to sum it up, yes, we have our strategic direction. How do we get there? This is the basic question. Individual organizations are developing their own plans. 9 working groups, in consultation with the movement, will recommend structural changes, and these recommendations will impact the movement significantly. We would like, just a second. We would like many of you to join us and to contribute to many of the consultations and the conversations. One chance for this is today, in the session that Jodie will be giving. You can still become a member of the working groups because they still need to grow their diversity. And we will host many community consultations online and offline at events. You can follow the updates on the portal on Meta. You can see us at movement events and the monthly activities meeting. And also please talk to us and let us know what other suggestions you have. So that was it from my side. Thank you so much for your attention and thanks for
Great, thanks so much, Nicole. Appreciate it. Richard, we have some last words for you before we need to break, right?
Here at Wikiconference North America, we aim to represent the diversity and breadth of the Wikimedia movement and all of its members in North America. Yeah, oh, sorry. Yeah, here at Wikiconference North America, we aim to represent the breadth and diversity of the movement in North America. I'd like to acknowledge and thank all the chapters and user groups and the individuals involved across North America who have been active and helping to support this conference, helping to support activities generally. I'd like to thank Wikimedia Mexico, Wikimedia Canada, the chapters and user groups in the United States, and I'm glad that we can all contribute to both the local community, a regional community, and the global community, people who are active in a geographic basis and also in a thematic basis. I'd like to give a particular shout out to some of the new user groups that have formed in the last year or so, to the Wikimedians of Chicago, to the Wikimedians of Los Angeles, and to the Gender Diversity Visibility User Group. I'm so glad that you can all contribute to Wikiconference North America and to helping to build a polycentric community for our continent. And I hope that some of you might consider hosting Wikiconference North America in the future. Thank you.
Just some supergroup logistics. I know we're a little bit over time. We'll try to get you out of here as quick as possible. For the rest of the day, we're going to be in Thompson Library at 18th Avenue Library. This green pin right here, that's where we are right now, Sullivan. If you head out the doors and then turn left and walk across the oval, you'll reach Thompson Library, which is the red pin. And then over here is Thompson Library again. Over up there is 18th Avenue Library. It's about a 7-minute walk from Sullivan to Thompson, and maybe like a 5 to 7 walk from Thompson to 18th Avenue. If you use Google Maps too, it should all come up there, or whatever device you have. Tomorrow we'll be also in Thompson and 18th Avenue. Keep in mind tomorrow that there is this Columbus Marathon happening in the morning, and they're going to shut off some roads and there'll be more traffic, so try to get here earlier. We'll have more information emailed out about that later today. And then really quick, we're going to have a group photo of you guys. We're going to take the photo from stage. If you do not want to be in the photo, this would be a good time to move off to the side. As soon as the photo's over, we're going to walk back to Thompson and 18th Avenue. We do have coffee and water and some iced tea back at Thompson. Otherwise, we recommend heading straight to the library if you wish to attend for your next session. And I'll pull up the schedule on the computer so you can see. Thank you guys. So stay seated if you want to be in the photo.
Oh, we're taking here? Hi, everyone. There's an issue of field of view. People who want to be in the photo and you're on the edges. Hi, everyone. We're doing good. Everyone wants to take a picture. Come into the center. Also, if you would, oh, there it is. And those who are staff members, volunteers, come to the center.
Just to not look out the window.
Okay.
trying to go downstairs.
What's that?
You're trying to go down there to do it?
No, they're setting up here, and everybody's leaving.
Are you all finished with everything up here?
I think so.
So that-
Yeah,
Yes.
thank you. Yeah, a good idea.
And then take that cord back where I
Yeah,
borrowed it.
HDMI is here. Yes.
And then I have a cart with some of your stuff on it from Thursday.
Oh, in
Where
Thompson?
which room do you want that in?
Maybe 165. Or maybe we do it in the registration.
Okay, I'll just pull the cart.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Sandra in a minute. And we will both be around.